Good morning, this is Pastor Brian. Thank you for joining me today as we read a chapter a day from the book of Hebrews. Today, chapter 7. I'll be reading from the Common English Bible, and it looks like today we'll get a more detailed explanation of who Melchizedek was. And so that's why I mentioned him last time, but I didn't want to get into too many details because we get a great explanation from our author. This Melchizedek, who was king of Salem and priest of the Most High God, met Abraham as he returned from the defeat of the kings, and Melchizedek blessed him. Abraham gave a tenth of everything to him. His name means first kings of righteousness, and then king of Salem, that is, king of peace. He is without father or mother or any family. He has no beginning or end of life, but he's like God's son and remains a priest for all time. See how great Melchizedek was? Abraham, the father of people, gave him a tenth of everything he captured. The descendants of Levi who receive the office of priest have a commandment under the law to collect a tenth of everything from the people who are their brothers and sisters, though they are also descended from Abraham. But Melchizedek, who isn't related to them, received a tenth of everything from Abraham and blessed the one who had received the promises. Without question, the less important person is blessed by the more important person. In addition, in one case, a tenth is received by the people who die, and in the other case, the tenth is received by someone who continues to live according to the record. It could be said that Levi, who received a tenth, paid a tenth through Abraham, because he was still in his ancestor's body when Abraham paid the tenth to Melchizedek. So, if perfection came through the Levitical office of priest, for the people received the law under the priests, why was there still a need to speak about raising up another priest according to the order of Melchizedek rather than one according to the order of Aaron? When the order of the priest changes, there has to be a change in the law as well. The person we are talking about belongs to another tribe, and no one ever served at the altar from the power of a life that can't be destroyed, rather than a legal requirement about physical descent. This is confirmed. You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. On the one hand, an earlier command is set aside because it was weak and useless, because the law made nothing perfect. On the other hand, a better hope is introduced, through which we draw near to God. And this was not done without a solemn pledge. The others had become priests without a solemn pledge, but this priest was affirmed with a solemn pledge by the one who said, "The Lord has made a solemn pledge, and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever." As a result, Jesus has become the guarantee of a better covenant. The others who became priests are numerous because death prevented them from continuing to serve. In contrast, he holds the office of priest permanently because he continues to serve forever. This is why he can completely save those who are approaching God through him, because he always lives to speak with God for them. It's appropriate for us to have this kind of high priest, holy, innocent, incorrupt, separate from sinners, and raised high above the heavens. He doesn't need to offer sacrifices every day like the other high priests, first for their own sins, and then for the sins of the people. He did this once for all when he offered himself. The law appoints people who are prone to weakness as high priests, but the content of the solemn pledge, which came after the law, appointed a son who has been made perfect forever. It's the end of chapter 7. As I mentioned, a much more detailed conversation about this priest Melchizedek and the order of Melchizedek. Again, comes up with Abraham as well as in Psalm 110, as we see in this text. And just talking about that interaction and the blessing and that Abraham and this priest had, and how that continued on in a way and through different means and that idea of giving a tenth came about. And so then comparing and contrasting that with Jesus, who is also our high priest, just like the other high priests, just like Melchizedek, and that things were being done the same way. This is kind of how I read it. Things were continuing to be done the same way, and the world just continued to move forward. And so in order for things to no longer be done the same way and for salvation to come differently and more permanently, there was a different priest from a different order with a different way of doing things, and that was Jesus. Jesus came in from a different priesthood, made perfect, so that we too can be made perfect. That sinners are raised high above the heavens. And so that's what I get out of this chapter, is that, there were all these orders and these priesthoods and things were moving forward and the law was established, but there was needed to be one who was different than the established norm. And that was Jesus Christ. And he's the one that came and gave himself as a sacrifice. Not lifting up any sacrifices, but he himself becoming our sacrifice, who, as we talked about in the previous chapters, was one who knew no sin, and yet took on the sins of the world. So what did you hear? What did you like? What was confusing? Maybe you want to go and look up Melchizedek in the Bible and read a little bit more about him to kind of maybe better understand this passage. I know that's something I'm going to be doing is personally, just to refamiliarize myself with that particular story. So write it down, whatever it was that you learned. Share it with a friend, share it with us. Take care of yourselves, stay safe. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow.